Hey everyone, I wanted to go over the new and exciting news that we have for Splatoon 3, and that's the fact that a brand new patch has become available, version 1.2.0. This patch will be going live within the next few hours as of the time of this video going up, so October 25th is when it's going to be going live. They're mentioning massive weapon changes, changes to Splatfest, an entire list of bug fixes that are pretty much of all types. The amount of multiplayer changes here is staggering, so there's going to be a lot to go over. I'm not going to go over every single patch notes, but there's going to be a lot of things to go over, especially some of the changes to Splatfest as well, which is once again one of those big changes that they're once again tweaking on as we prepare to see another Splatfest dropping next month. And if you want to go over all the patch notes at your own leisure, I'm going to be leaving a link in the description below for you guys to check it out on your own. First and foremost, they made some changes to the amiibos, where the Inkling Yellow, Octoling Blue, and Small Fry amiibo will become added. These amiibos, I believe, are dropping in early November. Another thing they're also adjusting is the data transfer information between players, essentially the lag input from you and another player's connection. This is something that has been a widely contested situation, so they're now going to be addressing that. They are not going to compensate any slowdown or anything about internet connection. Obviously, you need to have some sort of decent connection, but of course, they're trying to address some of those issues as well. When it comes to weapons, they're talking about the Frizzy Bomb is getting some changes. Also, the Flingza Roller, Slashing Machine, and Reef Lux 450. They're all getting buffed from one way or another, so they're going to be a little bit more powerful than before. They're mentioning that when you're playing alone, after immediately choosing keep going after the end of a match or change gear, then go, you're now going to have the option to actually go into the lobby and the Grisco to cancel matchmaking depending on the game mode selected. So this is a feature that is just going to make it easier for you. If you wanted to go back with your team but then change your mind, you can just cancel out without being punished. They're also mentioning that they're improving the efficiency of matchmaking between Anarchy Battles Open, Anarchy Battle Series, Splatfest Battles Open, and Tricolor Attacks. So all of these are going to hopefully have better ways for you to be able to join with friends and with randoms as well in a more stable fashion. They do provide a very interesting note that they mentioned that this update focuses on adjusting some of the weapons, improving several features, and fixing bugs that's related to battles. We've implemented several adjustments to curtail certain extents and styles of play where players stray far, are removed from the action, and continually use sub-weapons or special weapons. This patch prioritizes in bug fixes and other adjustments to weapons that will continue in the next update. In addition, we've reduced the amount of time of matchmaking takes in certain modes, reduced the battle latency, and small convenience improvements on lobby, and much more. Next update will focus on new features, season beginning in December, weapon balance changes, and changes in Splat Tricolor Attack mode. It's scheduled to release at the end of the current season. So better late than never, but they're finally starting to address some of the major concerns that players have had issues with. But of course, some of those still major weapon balance changes are still pending to come for December. When you begin to take a closer look at some of the multiplayer changes, specifically for like normal just versus hunts, they do specifically, you notice that a lot of them are for like specials. Ultra Stamp, Killer Whale, Wave Breaker, these kind of things were all like buggy in one way or another. So they seem to have adjusted that as well. The Tactic Cooler activating at the same moment as being placed as another Tactic Cooler. There was like some bugs there. So there are a lot of those are just being addressed. Like the specials were just buggy in one way or another. So they're addressing that first and foremost. You're also going to notice that Mincemeat Metalworks is one of those maps that a lot of clipping was happening where like your character would kind of like blend into the map. So they address some of those issues there as well, where essentially they remove some of the clipping happening there. Hagglefish Market is another one as well in Tower Control mode that they fixed some of those clipping issues. And Inkblot Art Academy, whenever you're using the Wave Breaker, would essentially like make some walls transparent. So of course they went ahead and fixed that as well. But realistically, it looks like almost every single one of the maps was touched in one way or another. Sturgeon Shipyard had some changes to the Rainmaker. Museum del Alfonso, basically the leg statues were not necessarily being inked properly, so now they went ahead and adjusted that as well. So all in all, even Mako Market also had some splat zones, tower control, and clan blitz modes adjusted. So plenty of changes for all the stages in one format or another. Now moving over to Salmon Run, they do specifically mention that some of the major changes were happening in this mode. They talk about They fixed an issue where hitboxes for the life ring were smaller than intended. Essentially, if you're trying to revive someone, the radius of you being able to income was smaller than it should have been, so they went ahead and addressed that. You're also going to notice that in a lot of the descriptions, especially some of those bigger monsters, especially that appear in Salmon Run, some of the bosses, if you will, some of the big baddies are like, also getting adjusted in one way or another. So, a lot of changes here. I'm not going to go over all of them, but, it's good to see that Salmon Run is finally getting some love, because this is probably one of the more buggiest modes that we have seen so far. And interestingly enough, even story mode is getting some adjustments. They're mentioning that they're fixing rare issues where ink wheels would not appear properly, implementing measures to prevent the game from crashing on stages with octoling enemies. They fixed an issue where splashdowns on the edge of a cliff would cause the player to stop losing controls. Enemies in both area Alterna Site 1 through 6 were not necessarily appearing as possible, so they went ahead and addressed that as well. And then even the shops are getting some love as well. They're mentioning that whenever you buy gear from merch, essentially would not necessarily be marked as new, and it would appear on the top of the list and the equip screen, so they've addressed some of that. The ZL option in Atlantis was also not necessarily working properly, so they also looked into that as well. And interestingly enough, even the photo mode also got some love. So all in all, massive bug fix list here. Plenty of changes to multiplayer. Hopefully the game is a little bit better. I love the changes in Salmon Run, certainly desperately needed. But of course, the big weapon balance patch is what really needs to happen sooner rather than later. I don't necessarily know why the game has almost been almost out 2 months, and they still haven't necessarily dropped one. Where at this point in time, in the last release, they had already dropped multiple ones already. But that's about all the information that I have for you guys today. Link in the description below for the entire patch notes. And if you're brand new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up. And as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.